Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, and welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Nancy Solari, founder of Living Full Out. Nancy started her company in 2008, and as a certified life and business coach, she provides the tools needed to stay positive when feeling overwhelmed or lacking balance in life. At Living Full Out, they motivate their audience to ambitiously barrel through hardships to reach success. The philosophy was brought about by her experience with retinitis pigmentosa, an eye disease she was diagnosed with at 16 years old that has now left her legally blind. Although she thought her eyesight would be the biggest hindrance in her life, she soon learned that more was to come. Through witnessing domestic violence between her parents, being sexually harassed in the music and suicidality, she understood firsthand how difficult life can be. Past, she goes who are dealing with situations of crisis and provides suggestions for them to overcome the of Living Full Out, a weekly show which has contributed to Good Morning America and Entertainment Tonight. The radio show covers a wide range of topics such as handling stress, coping with loss, overcoming anxiety, and focuses on inspiring listeners to be excited about life and work to accomplish important milestones as they listen to the stories of their inspirational guests who live full out. Without further ado, help me welcome to the platform my guest, Nancy Solari. Hey, Nancy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure, and I'm excited. We have been planning this for a while, so I am so happy to have you on, and with you being out there on the West Coast as well. I always love to have guests who are not located where I'm at, so thank you.
Absolutely. No, hello all West Coast and East Coast. It's fun. Yep.
Oh, yes, it is. All right, Nancy. So, hey, I just would like for you to take a few minutes to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself. I know that I read quite a bit in the bio, but we have some deep conversation to have tonight. So just give another quick overview about who you are and what you got going on right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, you covered a lot in the intro, but, we all have a past. We all have hurdles. And so for me, my path has been to take in those life challenges, which I've done. And I really didn't know, right out of the gate at, 9 years old or anything, what I was meant to do. But I've dedicated my life to creating Living Full Out, which is a motivational platform that really helps people connect the dots between what their dream is and how do they get there. And so between being born until today, there's all these different stories that I can share with you. But, really happy to be here and whatever I can do to help inspire some success for your audience.
Well, that's exactly what this show is all about, is inspiring, learning, and helping others to grow. But the thing I really kind of want to dive into is that, you have had some extremely horrible things going on that you've went through throughout your life. And, after reading the bio and learning more about who you were and realizing that, here you have this eye disease. And like you said, you thought at 16 years old that was going to be it. But you have been through so much. And so to grow up partially, being able to see, and now that you're considered legally blind, and then all the other things, just talk and touch a little basis about your childhood and the things that you've gone through. And then, let's walk a little bit through these steps of the other items that you've been to that's inspired you to get up and teach everyone what it means to truly be inspired and live your life fully.
Yeah, thank you so much. Growing up, I grew up in a family. I had a mother, father, and two older sisters. And, we went through happy times, but also very unhappy times. There was, my dad had an affair, which led to a divorce, which, led to just, a lot of pain and struggle. And my mom, strong-willed and all, she ended up raising the three of us girls on her own. And, within that, I saw, domestic violence, my sister struggle with an eating disorder. And of course, we all were told the news. My sisters and I, all three of us, were told that we would go legally blind. And I share that all with you because that pretty much all happened 16 and earlier. And then what I did learn, though, is that my survival skills were already starting to be created because I learned when to be quiet. I learned when to hand up my hand and be strong for another person. I learned when to speak up and take action. It's not every little girl's dream to call the police on her parents, but even I had to make that call at one point. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know later on in my life what those survival skills would do for me. Because, when I found myself in a relationship that had to deal with infidelity or, with the loss of each of my miscarriages, there was this really interesting feeling amongst all the sadness that I had been there before. And I'm sure many people in your audience, when they've come up against different hardships, we all had that moment. As painful as it is, we've been here before. The pain might feel slightly different, but it's also something that's consistent. And so we have to remember that during those days that are hard, during the times that we fail, that we've been there before and we'll get through it again.
Absolutely. And, I was listening to what you were saying, how you didn't realize how strong you really were. But as you were growing up, you were constantly there for others, even through the things that you went through, realizing that, like I said, one day you can actually see, and then all of a sudden you find out that now you have this disease. And so you've had to help uplift your mother and then help lift up I'm sure your sisters as a part of all the things that you guys have gone through with all the pain. And then as an adult, the things that you went through as a child, you literally were going through some of the same things that your mother went through step by step. And to me, that has to be very difficult as a child because you don't actually get the opportunity to grow up the way that you really want to. We all have our dreams about what we feel our life should be. But then, like you said, you were stepped into a whole different world. And so taking those experiences and putting them into your business to help others, talk to the listeners and explain a little bit about what is it that your program really does to help people really understand what it means to live full out.
Yeah, the premise of living full out is to live full out in all aspects of your life, not just have it be lopsided like 110% career and everything else fails, right? Mm-hmm. You want to have that balance. And, that's why we created the company back in 2008. And, we've evolved it to really understand that everybody has different learning techniques. So I'm a very auditorial learner because I can't see, but somebody else might really, digest information more by reading. So that's just kind of the aesthetics of how we deliver our content. But let's just look at that in life in general, right? So I think in general, you want to look at communication with maybe business partners, love partners, family, you name it. Mm-hmm. You have to find that delivery method that makes sense. Email, phone, texting, whatever the other person would receive it. Now, the reason why I bring that up to you in correlation to your question is because living full out is about developing that understanding. We don't always know everything, at an early age, but the beauty of growing and becoming a mature adult, a polished professional, is that you learn your best methods and then you really get insightful into what other people need to.
Exactly. And you're right. We don't know everything, but like you said, what you've utilized, you've been able to bring it forward and actually pay it forward and then try to find other methods that would help others, because you're right. We don't all learn the same, and, we're not all auditory. We all need to, sometimes we're visual for those who can see and all those things. So I guess the program itself, though, for a person that's coming in, how do people reach you? What is it that they say in order for you to get this message out? How is it that you get it to them, and what is it that they need to do in order to be a part of this program and this process so that they could be stagnant and being stumped into the world that they're currently living in?
Great question. So it really depends on what they need. So for example, our radio show has an element where people can call in anonymously. And I'm standing by, I'm giving coaching, whether it's life or business. And that's for people who maybe can't afford therapy, can't afford a coach, and really have this burning question. Most likely other people have the same question. So I help them on the air. And then we bring inspirational guests that we feel our audience connects to, like they see parts of themselves in that guest. And again, they ask themselves, the audience, how can I survive? How did they get through? And so we try to bring guests that provide a good example. Now, some people need more, though. So if they go to livingfullout.com, that's where, we can coach them in person or over the phone, because some people need a half an hour. They need an hour. They need once a week. They need once a month, right?
Right.
And so, again, it's really us giving them what they need. And the thing is most of our clients who call in on the radio show or come to our company, you don't always know what you need. And so sometimes it's talking it out, it's peeling away the layers and feeling out, what is that happy zone? What is that childhood dream that you've packaged away because of commitments or responsibilities? We want to pull that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like what you just said, the fact that, when people call in, they think they have an idea of what's really bothering them, but I'm sure there are so many layers. So it's like peeling that onion and trying to get to the root of the problem. And that's when you learn, and when they learn and say, hey, you actually need more of this and this and this in order to really be able to move forward. Correct?
Absolutely. And I am such a champion for people expressing themselves, because your audience might be dealing with their own challenges, their own fears or concerns. And the longer you keep it trapped in your mind, trapped in your body, you're not able to get creative with resources or solutions. That's when you feel hopeless and deflated. So when people call into the show, even though I'm only with them for maybe 5 minutes, there's just this moment of relief. There's this moment of hope.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to take that one resource you gave me and run with it, But we can do that for each other. So anybody in your audience, they can give that gift to a friend or a family member and be that sounding board.
Exactly. Because like you said, it's just that few minutes can change a life permanently, because they feel they have that security, and knowing that somebody is actually listening to them and that they're actually willing to help them and not be judgmental. Because I think, a lot of times when we all have certain circumstances within our life, we don't share these situations because people will automatically judge you for who you are, what you've been through, or tell you, well, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that? I understand truly what you're talking about when it comes to domestic violence. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I think the biggest fear of being in that situation when I was surviving in that survival mode was, who am I going to tell? Who's going to actually listen to me? How are they going to constantly judge me? And it's the first questions I always get, when I'm talking to others about, what it means to be a survivor and how to get out of those positions and to start living a purposeful life like you're talking about, is the thing I always hear is, well, why didn't you leave? It's automatically that first piece of judgment that you get, and then they wonder why people won't communicate. So, having programs and a show, I love your show concept of people being able to call in anonymously and say, hey, this is the problem I'm having. I need help. And knowing that they can reach out to you and know that there is no judgment. I think that is a beautiful concept for your business.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so funny, because anytime you hear someone say, why didn't you ... I want everybody to run the other direction as fast as you can. Why didn't you get married? Why didn't you leave that relationship? Why didn't you get a job? So anything that starts with a why didn't you, run away as fast as you can. Yeah.
And that makes sense, because at the end of the day, they're really not there to help you. When it's constantly that why?
Yeah, and you can't walk in another person's shoes. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Exactly. I agree with that 100%. You're absolutely right. So talk a little bit more into the business. I mean, this is somewhat of a unique type of business. What type of challenges have you faced as you've grown and built this business since 2008?
Well, my number one challenge has always been, the scene part, because I am pretty smart. I mean, I have an idea of what all the social media does, but I have to piece together on the journey. I've actually never even what Facebook, Instagram, or anything that looks like. But I'm really good when it comes to all that. And with like the radio show, my team will come to me and they'll be like, "I need this equipment," and I've never seen any of our equipment, but they tell me about it, tell me how it works, and then my mind can envision. And so I think the hardest part for me has just been piecing together what I visually can't see and then making sense of it and making a decision. But the best thing that's come out of not having vision is that I'm not overwhelmed by what I see. I know there's a lot of people distracted by social media, or what about this offer? What about that offer? I literally wake up, I'm so intentional with my day. I mean, I don't even go to the grocery store and buy what I don't need. I just know I need cheese. I know I need romaine lettuce, and that's it, right? So the thing is, it's weird. My vision has limited me, but it's also given me a lot of freedom. And everybody's have their own stance on their business. Like for me, it's my vision, but for somebody else, it might be another. I like to call it superpower that they have. So it's just about figuring out what is your superpower.
Right. And I like what you said, that even though you don't have the vision, it doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing, but also it makes you utilize other resources within yourself that, sometimes we actually take for granted that because we can see that, it's like we think we have it all in front of us. And really, we sometimes don't truly use everything that we can within ourselves in order to make things work. And like you said, you know the basics, like just like I said, putting us together, it's the basics. You got to have some bread, some meat and some cheese and lettuce, tomato, and it's a done deal. Sometimes when we can visually see things, we can overdo it. We overstate everything because we think that this is exactly what other individuals are going to need just because we can see that. And we can think that in our minds that this is really the way it's supposed to be. We're not realizing that sometimes the simplest concepts are always the best concepts.
You are 100% right. And you've made me hungry. Now I want a sandwich.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. Look, it's been a crazy day, so I haven't had any dinner right now. So I definitely will be eating after this call. But yeah, it's just, I think about what you're saying. And, a lot of times, like I said, I always wonder, I think I've had that question asked, and I'm sure other people have heard the question of, what would you do if you didn't have your sight, or which would you give up, your sight or your hearing? What would you do? And, it's like, how do you answer that question until you have actually been put in a position to have to deal with that? And I think that, I always wonder, being an individual in your situation who has experienced both, that definitely had to be devastating as a young person. But like I said, you have achieved so many things by not allowing those things to stop you from being who you are and what you are. And then, like I said, paying it forward. And it's just amazing to hear your story. We all think that we have problems and issues and, things. And then when you start to listen and learn from others, that we all, we realize that some of our problems really aren't as big as we really think that they are. So I definitely applaud you for everything that you've gone through. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more on the business side. Then we all, there's a lot of people out here who really want to be in business. What true advice would you give them about coming into business?
Well, business is first of all based on passion. So sometimes people want to go into a business just to maybe have that financial freedom, or because they want to own a business. Number one, be passionate about your business. Don't just open a franchise, don't just chase the money, really make sure that every day you enjoy what you do, because there are such difficult times and long hours and times that you wish you could be not working, but you have to. And so number one, passion is key. Number two, put in place a team of people that will educate you and help you along the way. The education piece is critical because you may be the creator of your company. You may be the investor of a business, but you're not the accountant. You're not the attorney. You might not be your own copywriter. You might not be your social media manager, right? You need to build a team that is on board with your vision of what you're trying to create. And then also to get the education. It's not like you get educated at one time and then call it a day. It's really important to constantly get educated. So, social media is always changing. So taking webinars and classes and networking, or, just even taking a class in how to do a podcast, how to become a better writer, whatever it is that your industry may be, it's you want to know more than your competitor is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to stay educated. And so if you take passion, you take a team, and you stay educated, you will go far.
I agree with that. So those top 3 things are to be passionate, make sure you have a team of people who will surround you and give you the things you need, because obviously you know that you can't do everything. A lot of times when we all come into business, we think that, oh, you know what? Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the accountant. I'm going to be the attorney. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And the reality is that is not what you're made for. So when you are in a business, like I said, you're zoned in on what it is that you're created, that you want to create. But a lot of times I will find people, who won't sit down and think about that plan, think about that idea of, well, how am I going to get this accomplished? And it's funny because I'm also a book coach, and when people ask me, well, how do you become an author? Well, first of all, you have to write. But then the thing that amazes me, out of every class I've ever done or any individual that I've helped out, they don't realize that being an author is a business. So it's funny how people will balance and bring in that passion, but then they don't have the other pieces that come with it. And then the other thing that you said, of course, is education, that I absolutely agree with you on, that, you have to maintain your education, as far as not so much that, hey, I'm going to go out here and get another degree, but as far as understanding, like you said, what your industry is, because your industry will change. And then you, as a business person, you want to be able to, redo who you are sometimes. Think of some of the things that you would like to have that will be more beneficial for your clientele. So you're absolutely on top of that when it comes to those 3 things that will help somebody who wants to come into business, because being a business owner, we know, is not easy. And so if you don't have that fire and that passion in order to want to maintain yourself, you will definitely find yourself back to square one. Now, I have a question. How do you feel about those individuals who decide in business that, you know what, I want to do my business, but I also want to stay into the corporate arena and work full time? What is your thought process on that?
I have no judgments, meaning that some people think they have a business, but maybe they have a product or a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe over time, meeting the right people, developing that passion, and getting the education, that product, that service, that hobby will turn into a company. And I do believe that before you go all in and you're depending on everything that you do being the money that you have to spend, because it can be a scary lifestyle, an entrepreneur, owning your own business. You really have to know and test the marketplace that your service, your product, people are going to want. Otherwise, that's how you fall into hard financial times, or you have to fold it in. And so I think it's smart sometimes to still keep that 9-to-5 job, build the business as much as you can until the pendulum switches. And I did that as well. I was in real estate for 13 years. And I started living full out while I was still doing real estate. Mm-hmm. And I balanced them for years. But then it turned out that living full out needed more of my time. And I was able to drop real estate in a loving way, but let it go. Let all my clients be referred to somebody else in a loving way. But at the same time, it was just a natural transition, So no judgments. I think you have to go with what feels good. Trust your instincts in business. That's the number one.
Exactly. Because like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, like I always explain to people too, that your responsibilities never change, no matter what direction you decide that you're going to go. And I always think that it's just very important to, like I said, lay out a plan, decide when you have taken that hobby and really want to run it into a full business after you've made the steps that you need to make. And I also think that even once you're in the business, that having that mentorship consistently is a beneficial piece too, so that that individual will keep you, or those individuals will keep you on board and keep you humble to know when you can, when you can go forward or when you should not go forward. Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we do think we know more. and than anybody else. And it's always good to have that person's going to tell you, no, you cannot do this. So, I definitely like that answer. And I think it's important, like you said, that there is no judgment for it, but you definitely should know what direction you want to go and balance it all and make it work the right way. So I do have a couple more questions for you. So then I guess the other thing I want to know a little bit more about is that you were also a part of the music industry. So what did you do in the music industry?
Yeah, boy, that was a kick. That was a funny time. Well, I had always loved singing. I mean, if I was to put in a couple of VHSs somewhere, I'm sure I have a couple home videos of me singing in front of my family. And then I did the national anthem a couple of times when I was at the University of Oregon. And I just remember there were some transitions that had happened in the broadcasting part of my life. And I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to sing professionally. Why not? Why not? I'm going to give it a whirl. And so I went online. I researched where all those music people were networking and where they were at. And there are certain restaurants and places you can go. And I ended up meeting people, producers that helped me put together a demo, a manager that helped me put together an album, people that I could gig with. And I was living the dream, right?
Right.
The only thing is sometimes it's better left a dream. Now, what I mean by that,
okay.
I still love music, but there were several parts of the music industry that were not jiving with me. For example, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll is very real. And you have to know that is your scene. And I just remember one time being at a function, and it was actually a pre-Grammy function, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I just said, these are not my people, the people I was with. Mm-hmm. They weren't bringing out the best version of Nancy. I could like singing all I want, but it wasn't the right fit. And then another producer, because back in the day, if you wanted to look skinnier, one of the ideas was that they would break your 2 front ribs. Wow. That's right. And I wasn't looking to break my ribs. They're a family. They're a set. They came together. We're going to leave together. Right. And again, I think whether it's the music industry or even other areas of my life, you have to decide, are you willing to sell out? How much negotiating of yourself are you willing to give? And you know what? That can be in all areas of business, because there's going to be people that will tease you with a lot of offers. I can do this for you. But that's where it goes back to trusting your instincts and being able to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you are, be proud of what you've built and what you've earned.
Absolutely. Yes. You can use that example for every part of your life, that, what are you really truly willing to sell yourself for in order to get what you think is the thing to get for today. But that one thing that you may get today may not last forever. So you're absolutely right. There are so many people out here who are willing to sell you the dream, but then that dream, that the reality that you see is not the reality that you have in your mind, or what you worked hard for, because you're trying to really do the right thing. But, I just had to ask that question. Like, wow, this is interesting, because I was trying to balance and trying to figure out how all of this came together. But, like I said, all your experiences have definitely been motivating, but at the same time, they have been depressing, to know that you've worked so hard, and then you've got these people who have put all these dampers in your life. But as you say, you were determined and you made things happen the right way, and now you're showing other people how to do that. So on that note, could you tell everyone how they could get a hold of you and reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about living full out?
Absolutely. So they can go to livingfullout.com, and when they go there, I just want to note that they can get a document that we've created called 80 Tips to Bring Balance in Your Life. It's free. It's super helpful. Any one of those could help you on a hard day to relieve that pain or stress. So just know that that's there for you. And they can find out about, where we're speaking, our coaching. Our blog has tons of articles. We're all over social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, you name it. And then most of all, listening to our radio show. If they go to livingfullout.com, they can listen to the show there. We're also in the app stores. We're on Alexa. Just look out for Living Full Out Radio.
All right. All right. Well, Nancy, I do really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come on and talk to me and my listeners. I've learned so much about you, and I really appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I wish everyone the best, and just go out there, live full out, and be successful.
And that's right. You guys heard her. So like I said, I have Nancy Solari, who is the owner and the founder of Living Full Out. You can find her at livingfullout.com. Very easy to remember. That's www.livingfullout.com. And for everyone else, it's been a great evening. We're here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Next week, we have my favorite two guests back, Lady K and Mr. T show. So make sure you're back here at 7 p.m. next week. We have some great things we'll be talking about. And for the rest of the evening, you guys all enjoy, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.